and let us all do we can to build a better future. So, Daniel, you've got a story for the people. Has to deal with Bernie and Rashida Tlaib. What is going on?
Yeah, this is an interesting fight that goes over the other interesting fights that we've been talking about with the squad and the words, but this is actually an interesting development. There is a actual debate on pretty interesting topic, which is police reform or police abolishment or reforming. Maybe remaking the police may be a better way than saying reforming, which is different. And on one side of this argument, you have Rashida Tlaib, who is arguing for the abolish the police moniker, which I think has ever-growing support. And Bernie Sanders is arguing for the reform police, which is also growing in support, but in a different way from different people. It feels like everyone that's not for that wants to now reform the police is moving into that camp. All the people that were already there are now moving over to abolish the police. So they'll get there anyway. But they are fighting because they disagree. Let's take a look.
Now, one question keeps coming up after these deaths. Is police reform the answer? One Democratic lawmaker says no. Instead, Representative Rashida Tlaib wants policing to be stopped altogether, calling it inherently and intentionally racist. But her fellow progressive, Senator Bernie Sanders, tells CNN that isn't the solution.
No, I don't. I think that what we need to do is to understand that there needs to be major police reform all across this country. We are tired of seeing the same thing week after week and year after year. We do not want to see innocent African Americans shot in cold blood. So I think that is an area that needs significant amount of work, and I hope that Congress begins work on that immediately.
Now, one question keeps coming up after the
Yeah, so this is basically it. It's an interesting thing to see Bernie Sanders being out-lefted so thoroughly. And it's like, look, we keep covering, and we're going to be covering right after this, giant holes with how the police act, how they are not held accountable, how the unions have somehow negotiated the ability to have the police officer review the footage and the evidence on the ground before they make a statement, because, of course, that's fair. The fact that you can't ever prosecute an officer for first-degree murder, even though many times it seems very clear that they were. And it's so hard to get prosecutors to go against the police. It's all this stuff seems impossible. And it's based on a system that was created intentionally to get slaves back a couple hundred years ago versus like the European system, which is more reasonable. It's Bernie Sanders, you keep disappointing with, I think, a narrow-minded view on this. And, yeah, what do you think, Kit?
Okay, it doesn't surprise me that Bernie Sanders is kind of giving his opinion on this. I mean, again, how often are we seeing Bernie just lose that fighting spirit?
Won't
that he
fight
had?
against the establishment. Won't fight against progressives.
Right.
Like, you can make the point very easily that this isn't that abolish police will never happen. Bernie's still going to fight for that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Again, maybe this goes down to the notion of perhaps maybe this is kind of Bernie's final term, if we're willing to go that far. Because the thing is, if Bernie's going to be giving these kind of responses of, well, no, I'm not on board for abolishing the police. Well, there's been numerous stories happening all this week where once again, it's giving more foundation to the case of, yeah, we need to either, if we can't reform it, then we have to abolish it. Because we're seeing a lot of footage coming out there of police brutality, police corruption. We're going to be covering it later, right after this segment about police brutality. And we need politicians in Washington, D.C. to finally wake up to the fact that there is a true lack of no accountability whatsoever. And so with Rashida Tlaib, hey, look, we've been critical of the squad. I'm glad that she's taking that aggressive action and making those statements. The thing is, what will she do to continue to follow through? That's what I want to see from these Democratic lawmakers, because already we've seen numerous reports. Jimmy Dore covered it as well, on how you have Democratic lawmakers, most notably progressive, saying we can't afford to rock the boat. We can't shake the system up. But then I have to step back and say, well, then why were you elected in the first place?
Right.
Why are you here? And Bernie Sanders, I think what he also needs to realize is that while he did help create a political movement, the movement is moving on without him, because at this point we need somebody who's going to be consistent and willing to fight back.
And I think that I think Bernie, you've done your part. Congratulations. You started a movement in 2016. You opened up a lot of people's eyes and consolidated ideas, and now everyone agrees with your policies. But you've sort of you've been fighting with the wrong people. You've been backing the wrong people. I hesitate to say, like, hey, this is your last term, you should go, because I wonder who replaces him.
Probably some corporatists.
Yeah, I would rather not see that. But
he can't be around forever.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. And I think the reason why
he's made his mark in history.
He's made his mark, but also I'm a little bit concerned of what this says for future progressives, because if they're not willing to fight or go that extra mile, even after they get the election stolen from them, because let's face it, that's what happened during the 2016 primary and the 2020 primary. The Democratic establishment worked really hard to deny Bernie Sanders a nomination and went above and beyond to smear progressives and independents and volunteers for the Bernie Sanders campaign. That's what happened.
And I would also just add on to that I think Rashida has a lot of very good points bringing this up, but I also know that if this is America, that would not happen. However, she's making the right negotiating play. This is a negotiating play that we've needed all along. If you want to completely reform the police at its core, make it more what it is in Europe, make it so police are accountable and qualified immunity, all the other stuff that we talk about on the show, you start with, we're going to abolish the police. And then the middle ground isn't halfway, some bad, useless reforms that don't really do all that much. It's ending up in the reforms you want. So I don't think Bernie should be fighting her on this, because it's a good bargaining tactic.
Agreed 100%.